Welcome back to another episode of Decide to Heal. I am your host, award-winning master life coach, Alejandra Crisafulli. And y'all, I am with a very special woman. Yeah, Monica, you came into my life and have been such a gift, and your journey of healing has been profound. Like getting to see you from the very first time we had a conversation and all of like the fear and the blocks that you could literally feel in that moment that we were speaking to now. She's just had so much healing and breakthrough, you all. It's beautiful. But like any of us, I have shared so often with you, we never like get to a point of being healed. Duh.
Yeah.
There's always another level. Every time you up level, more healing needs to happen. And you are not living fully if you are not up leveling. You need and want to be up leveling because God has a very special plan for all of us. And when you choose to step into that plan, you for sure are up leveling in massive ways. And it reveals new layers of healing. So Monica is here to, focus in on this new layer of healing that's come up for her. So I'd love to just start with, Monica, why don't you share with us what even had you say, like, I need some coaching right now on this particular area of my life, and share with us what that is.
For me, I've been struggling in my relationship, been married 11 years, but been together 13 years. And it's just the fighting has progressively gotten worse. The resentment, the amount of days we would go without talking to each other. And it really got to a point of, at one point I asked for a separation. And then a few weeks ago, I was really considering that I had to move out, and even started talking to my daughter about where her and I could go because I didn't think the marriage was going to work out.
Yeah, I can feel that. And thank you for being vulnerable and bold enough to share that, because I know so many marriages struggle in that way, and kind of being stuck in this question of, do I stay or go? Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
And it does feel like there's no other option other than going, when it's just been like cycling around for quite some time.
Right. Yes.
Okay, got it. So can we talk about, like, I'm assuming the marriage hasn't always been like that.
Well, there's always been a struggle in the marriage. I guess as I see it now, it's probably always been a power struggle
Okay.
between her and I. I believe I'm always someone who wants to see it out. So I would always try and find solutions as far as like going to counseling and therapy. So then we'd get those temporary reliefs of things would be okay. But my wife is very resistant to counseling in general or anything. And so I guess over the past year or so, I've just kind of stepped aside and not pushed the issue of coaching anymore, and just kind of like let it go wherever it's going to go, and just try and focus on myself at this point.
Okay. And how has that gone?
For me, it's been going good. I obviously need more healing in the area, but things are still not good. So,
Well, right. And I'm wondering, because if like a few weeks ago you were saying you were about to like move out and talking to your daughter about, I think we need to move out, seeing how things go and just like let things go the way they're going to go isn't really working either.
right.
So this is the part that like it can be very challenging, especially in a relationship, because it's like when you're trying to do something and make it better, that doesn't seem to work. But then when you stop trying to do something, that's not working either. And it
Right.
feels like what do I do?
Right. Exactly. I felt like it came down to, I felt like I had no other options,
Right.
you know, and yeah, stepping back. I think when I stepped back, I knew that it could make things worse. but I was tired of always being the one pushing to make things better in the
When you
relationship.
say like would make things worse, what part that when you said I knew it would make things worse, what did you know would make it worse?
I guess I just felt like I always have to carry the relationship part. And so
Okay.
I was always the one looking for solutions and
Okay.
going to like a marriage retreat or getting us into counseling. And so I guess I knew when I pulled back from doing that, that she wasn't going to take it over and that I was just going to let the marriage go wherever it was going to go at that point.
Yeah, got it. Okay, I want to go back to something you said a minute ago too, because you said it, I know I need more healing. So what
Mm-hmm.
did you mean by that? And what specific healing do you know you need?
So what I meant by that is I know that a lot of our fights start with how I am viewing myself. Going through this coaching method already, I know all about how you relate to yourself. And so most of the times when arguments start, it's been based off how I'm relating to myself of I'm not important enough or I'm not good enough. And so then I react in a certain way, obviously in a negative way with a bad attitude and a bad tone. And then I get a bad reaction. And then I'm mad that I'm getting treated bad because of it. And then it just goes on for days of not talking and then trying to go back and revisit and talk about it. We can't get through a hard conversation without it sparking another fight again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why sometimes it just goes for days because I dread getting to have that sit down conversation because I feel like we're just going to start the fight all over again.
Yep. So better to just not even say anything and
Sometimes, yeah.
avoid.
Right. But even knowing that, okay, it's going to build up and it eventually needs to be talked about, but don't know how really to go about it. So
Yeah. Okay.
avoidance, yeah, at that point.
Yeah. So let's go back to, because you just described the cycle. You basically just described your 360 cycle.
Yes.
And just to be really clear, let's make sure you know exactly what that 360 is for you. So a cycle has a starting point, and then it ends exactly at the same point where it started, and then goes around and around. So where do you think it starts?
So it starts with me not feeling important enough.
Okay.
And then I act out in a certain behavior.
And what behavior is that?
Usually it's some sort of rejection towards her. Like, for example, she'll reach out to grab my hand and I'll be like, oh, now you have time for me? And I pull my hand back like, no, so then I know that I've gone back to prove that I'm not important enough because then she pulls away from me and then we don't talk.
Okay, so you act out a certain way. The example of like, she reaches out for you, you're like, oh, now you want to talk. Then she pulls away in response to that. Okay, so then where does it go from there?
Then it basically goes into the silent treatment.
Okay. And then from the silent treatment, what happens?
Then it basically goes into avoidance of one another.
And then
there's times where we try to go back and talk about it again.
Yeah, it sounded like from there, you did go back and like, okay, let's now it's been several days or however long that took, that avoidant silent treatment place. And now let's try and talk about it.
Right.
But then what happens?
Then the frustration and each of us feeling like we're right in what we did just creates the fight all over again. And then we avoid again and we silence each other again until we try again to attempt to talk about it some more.
Yeah. One piece I want to connect back to is the from the talking about it, then you're both frustrated because you're both trying to be right and feel like you are right, which makes the other person wrong. And if the other person's wrong, then you feel not important. Like if she's telling you, no, I was right, you're wrong, even though those aren't the words you're saying, it then re-triggers the, well, see, I'm not important. Not
Right.
important enough for you to see my point of view or understand where I'm coming from.
Right. Or that my feelings were valid. It's like my feelings aren't important enough.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then boom, the whole cycle starts again.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, awesome. So, yes, you're absolutely spot on like the part that needs healing. More healing is the not important.
Right.
Yeah, but I wanted you to know exactly what your 360 cycle is, because until you're like fully aware, even though you knew, but like laying it out this way, which by the way, I did on my notes here. So here's the whole cycle.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I'm going to recommend that you do too, so that you're aware of this is the cycle that needs to be broken. And you have a decision here, Monica, of like, are you going to continue to keep doing the cycle or break it?
Right.
So let's start there. What are
I
you
want to break it. Yeah. I want to break it.
How do you know you want to break it?
Because I know I can't keep living this way, and my marriage is important to me, and I love my wife, and I know that needs to change because it affects every area of my life, not just my relationship with her.
Say more about that piece. What do you mean? I get it, but I want to hear and have the audience here too.
I think even with my coaching business, it stops me. I just don't do anything with it. I kind of start avoiding everything. I avoid friends. I basically just become a hermit and just kind of live in my feelings. So my whole life, in a sense, stops until everything is back to being okay with her and I.
Yeah. Which that silent treatment sounds like you silencing everything.
Yes. I usually just go to my room, and that's just kind of where I hunker down and want to be alone and just be left alone. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to the decision to break the cycle, you're saying, yes, you want to. And here are all these reasons why I want to. But I want you to look from this perspective, Monica. If that were true, wouldn't you have already broken the cycle?
I guess, but I guess for me, I have to remember the part that I play in and focus on what I'm creating in the relationship versus what the other person I feel is creating or reacting to. So I guess for me, I feel as if I remember to keep working on just me and focus on being accountable to my actions and my behaviors and what I do, I feel that's where the change can happen. And that's how I can improve the relationship.
And yes. Now I'm going to throw in a however here.
Okay.
Because we want to have a breakthrough in this.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
That's why we're here, to break the cycle.
Right.
So all of that you said, yes. And how long have you been trying to do that?
A very long time. Probably my whole life. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you've had this incredible healing too, where it's gotten better and you had a lot of healing around the not important. But now you're at a new level, and you can't just leave it at the level that got you here. It's not going to get you there, that next higher level. So what got you here isn't necessarily what's going to get you to the next level.
Okay. Got it.
Because the cycle continues to repeat, even though like you told me exactly, like, well, here's how I need to break it.
Right.
But it's not broken.
True.
even though you really want it to be broken.
I do. Yeah.
Exactly. So what are you getting from this before I keep going?
I'm aware of how I guess I want to go about breaking this cycle, but there's still work that needs to be done because I've been trying to do this for a long time, but I just keep repeating that same pattern. So now that I've had some healing around not feeling important, I'm having to up that healing even deeper
Yeah.
to work on the not feeling important enough.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So it goes back to my question of, I know you want to break the cycle, but there's something that's actually blocking you from breaking the cycle. And it does. It goes beyond just what you thought you needed to break the cycle. Let me throw this out there and see how this lands.
Okay.
You're saying you want to break the cycle, but you don't really. How does that land?
I could see that because it's a way of protecting me. It's familiar to me. It's what I know to do. I've done this since I was a child.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
How,
it obviously served me back then to protect myself and to silence and to retreat. But it's not serving me in a relationship.
no. This is that part I talk about often with clients, like what saved you as the child is killing you as an adult.
Yes.
Because whatever abuse or trauma was going on as a child, like that silent treatment and the retreating and being a hermit did save you from that abuse or trauma that was going on. But now in the marriage, that same cycle is killing your marriage. It no longer does serve you yet because of that familiarity that you're saying, because that child is scared to go beyond anything else.
Yeah.
So what's coming up right now?
I just feel sad when I think about that's what I had to do as a child to protect myself.
So keep going with that. Say more.
I just see myself, as a child just sitting in my room by myself and just when there's chaos in the rest of the house. And I had nobody, no one to come check on me. So I just picture myself sitting in the room and trying to drown out all the fighting and arguing that was going on in the house.
Yep.
I just feel like that's how I lived my life as a child.
Yep. And it's how you're living your life now as an adult.
Yeah.
Except you're the one in the fighting now and
Right.
trying to go back to what saved you then.
Yeah.
Did you notice what you said about that child in basically her room, sitting in a room by herself? I want you to go back and see if you can pinpoint. You said something, how she was feeling, what she was experiencing.
Feeling alone and that no one was coming in to save her or to even talk to her or make sure she was okay.
Exactly. What is it you want from your wife?
I probably want her to come in and tell me everything is okay. Because I know when she has done that in the past, like, I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm good. Like,
yeah,
that's what I needed to hear.
Yeah. You want her to come check on you and
Right.
yes, make sure that you're okay. And that checking in on, think about that message that it sends when you're checked in on to make sure that you're okay. What's the message that's sent?
That I love you and I care about you.
And that I am
important.
Yes.
Yeah. I can see that.
It all comes back to that.
And I never even thought of it like that.
Yeah. This has been the missing piece to break the cycle. This is the new level of what needs to happen now. Is this connection between that little girl needing and wanting someone to come check in on her is the same thing that you're needing and wanting from your wife now. And neither one of you, the child or the adult, was getting that or is getting that.
All right.
And so what do you think that sends you into? Like, think about it from an adult perspective now and coming back to this cycle. She's not checking in on you. She actually is doing maybe the opposite of that. What does that send you into emotionally?
Depression, sadness,
And
emotionally. Go
ahead. No, you go ahead.
I just feel like I can't do anything until I know everything is okay.
Exactly. Hence the silent retreating part and avoiding. Can't do anything until you know you're okay. Okay. And I hear what you're saying about the depression and the sadness for sure.
Mm-hmm.
In the cycle, though, you said it like this. You act out in certain behaviors. And the behavior was that you identified was rejecting her.
Yeah.
So if you reject someone, there's a different emotion than sadness or depression. That's an angry emotion.
Yeah.
Like you're pissed.
Yeah. Angry.
Yeah.
For sure.
And when you're in that state, Monica, it's almost like you want to punish her.
Correct.
Okay, so you're saying correct. So that must have landed. So tell me how that landed.
I don't know. When you say that word, I feel like that's how I've been my whole life I feel like through punishment, then people learn. I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Does that include yourself?
What? 100%. Like, yeah, just the way I look at things, like, I don't know, something always comes up with me, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but
Yeah, let's hear it.
so my uncle died when I was like 16, and him and I were close, and I felt his love and stuff, but I basically grieved him for like 20 years. And seeing my aunt move on, I was mad because I felt like if you weren't sad and upset, then you really didn't even love him.
Mm.
And I feel I do that with everything. Like I have to be sad and down and stuff for years so that people realize that it meant something to me.
Yes. That for sure connects, but I want to see you make the connection. So what's the connection there?
Wow.
What's that connection between what you shared with your uncle's passing? And basically what you're saying is sad and upset equals the showing of love.
Right.
Okay. So how does that connect to you punishing your wife and yourself? Because you basically, when I mentioned the word punishing, you're like, yeah, that's how I've lived my whole life.
Right.
And when I asked, and even yourself, and you said, yeah. And then you shared about your uncle. So what's the connection between those two things, do you think?
I guess punishment equals love in my eyes.
Very good. Yeah. Punishment is a way to keep that sad and upset present so that, yes, love is there. It's like the vehicle, so to speak. As long as I'm punishing you and myself along the way, I'm going to stay sad and upset. And if I stay sad and upset, you're going to know that I love you.
True. Yeah.
Now connect it to that little girl in her room. And no one coming in to check on her. Do you see a connection between that?
I guess that's how I was trying to get love, was through punishing myself by sitting in my room, and I would just play sad music over and over and over again, and just to stay in that sadness and cry. And yeah.
So let's go back. Is this landing before we keep going? And what's coming up before we keep going here?
It is landing. It's just incredible to go back and see how it all ties together, as crazy as it sounds.
Right. It might sound crazy, but no. And I know people listening, like you might be listening and like, oh my gosh, that's me.
Yeah.
That's what I do. That's where I've been at. So it might sound crazy, but it's so not. And it makes total sense too at the same time.
Right. No, I see it. It's just, I guess, coming from an adult perspective now, when you look at that of like, how did I ever think I was going to get love that way? Because it never happened anyways, but somehow I came up with it.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So now going back to my original question, how we got down this path was around, really deciding, do you want to break the cycle? And you said, yes, I want to break the cycle. Here's the thing. And I mentioned it. You don't want to break the cycle, or didn't. Let's see where you're at after this. Okay. Let me say this first.
Okay.
You don't, because you've been more committed to punishing yourself and your wife so that you stay in this cycle, because it's where you've experienced love.
Right.
So to break the cycle means you would have to stop punishing you and her and experiencing love through this way. And one more layer to that too, Monica. Not only those two things, but also you would have to break this need for someone else to come tell you or check on you or make sure that you're okay. You'd have to break that need for someone else to do that for you.
I can see that. Yeah. Has to be me.
Well, it has to be God.
Right. Me and God together. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
So that's what that's what it would take to break the cycle, is actually breaking the attachments, almost like you've been like hooked into the attachment of punishing yourself and her, because it's where love is experienced and that's what you've known up until this point. And also the need for someone else to check in on you so that you know you're okay and important.
Right.
It's like you would have to be willing to break that.
Yeah. That's hard. It's scary.
That one's harder than like, I want to break this first cycle we started with.
Right.
Now we're talking about breaking a need you've fulfilled for years, since childhood. And it is scary. So talk about that. Like, why is it scary? What's the fear about?
The unknown. I guess I always basically know the outcome. And going about it a different way than what I've known, I obviously don't know what the outcome is. I mean, logically it would be better, but internally there's just that fear of not 100% sure of what the outcome will be. And I guess the amount of pain and healing that I have to go through to get there.
And what do you mean by that? I get it, but I want to hear more of what you mean by that.
I guess just the experience, the feelings of sadness, and I guess even grieving over something that I feel has served me for 50 some odd years.
Yep. Is that grieving different than the sadness you have perpetuated through this punishment?
Yeah, I feel like it's even deeper.
Can I offer a different word for that?
Sure.
It's more raw and real. The other one is more a conjuring up.
Yeah.
What do you hear in that?
That it's more, I guess, of being more vulnerable and looking within myself versus the stuff that I've made up around that.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like the sadness and depression you were talking about earlier was more from a victim place. Like that's that form of like, let me victimize myself to experience these emotions because I need to punish myself in order to find this love, right? Like it's more of like the victim expressing or experiencing these emotions versus the grieving that needs to happen in this completely relinquishing, totally surrendering to God, this whole like need is, it's not from a victim anymore. It's the raw, real emotion of it. The difference though, Monica, is that I think it's not going to be as hard as you think it is because the difference is the other one is has been long term. It's been in the trenches, dragging the baggage with you, like fully in like here, I have to keep doing this because this is how people know I love them, or this is how I know I'm loved.
Right.
Whereas this will be like raw, real, quick, and like,
yeah.
And then done. The freedom to the other side.
Yeah. Which I want and I need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally, I can just see I did this all to myself. Like, I would literally just repeat it in my head over and over that I had to be this way. You have to be sad. You have to be down. Like, I just fed myself.
That's what I mean by the conjuring of emotion. It started in your head and then the feelings, like you pushed the feeling to happen. Yeah.
Right.
That's the victimizing too of like, oh my God, like however it looks in your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this way, the feeling is already there. You don't have to think about it. The feeling is there and that gets expressed and then it's done.
Yeah.
It's run its course.
I see that. Yeah.
Now, does that make the fear go away?
Yeah, I feel better about it, I guess.
Good.
Yeah. I don't know if I was just hijacked in the moment of being back there and that fear but now I don't have the fear I did like a few minutes ago when you first asked me. I was really like, maybe I don't want to do this.
Yeah. So guess what you've just done?
I've done some healing.
You have. You decided
Right.
to break the cycle.
Yeah.
And there's relief here. And I don't know if you guys can feel it and sense it through Monica's expression here, but I feel it and see it.
It feels different now than when we first started talking about it. I almost felt like this resistance of me of like, no. And now I feel better. Like, yeah, I have more relief, more relaxed feeling within inside myself.
Very good. Okay. So now, and you know how to do the grieving, which you're
Right.
doing right now. You've already begun it. And by the way, this may be it. That could have been it right there.
Right.
Like, it's not necessarily what it was before, like the in-depth, because if it does start going that way, then it's not the real raw. And I want us all to get this. Like, that's how quickly grieving can happen when you make the decision to heal. That's how quickly. Because grieving ends in hope, and you're
Yeah.
at hope, Monica.
Yeah. I am. Yeah.
And it sounds like you went through the resistance was probably the anger. So
Yeah.
for our audience that doesn't know the phases of grieving, it's shock, denial, sadness, anger, hope.
Yeah.
And you went through all of that. So
Yeah.
this could be it.
Really fast. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the thing I was saying, like raw, quick, fast, real.
Yeah. I see that. I get that. Yeah.
And
'Cause I
notice
just-
you're still there.
Yeah.
It feels so good.
Right. Yeah. Just a whole different feeling
Yes.
for sure.
Good. Okay. So now what happens with your wife? What do you want to do now?
I feel I need to have a conversation with her.
Good. In what way? Because how will that conversation be different than the cycle now?
It's going to come from me taking accountability and letting her know, I guess, of where this has all come from and where it stems from. And I guess knowing what my intent behind it always was.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
good. And regardless of how she responds to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I guess I have that fear of it being like thrown in my face down the road.
Okay, so what
I
if
was
it
to do
is?
that behavior again?
Well, right. So what if it is thrown back in your face?
To me, it just seems very hurtful. It feels like it's a slap in your face of like I need to be perfect.
Yeah, and that's not at all what it means.
Right. And I know I can't be.
No.
You know?
And healing doesn't equal perfection, Breaking a cycle doesn't equal perfection either. It just equals freedom and a deeper connection with God.
Yeah. I guess I just want some grace in it, in the process. I'm not always going to do it right, but I am at least aware of it. And I guess maybe just ask that my desire is that it's not thrown back at me, that here you go again, doing what you've always done.
Mm-hmm. So look, you can ask that for sure after you share with her, rather than like, here's my desire. How about ask her, if I do this again, or when I do it again, because I will, I'm human, and the healing means I'm not healed, like it's, but I've had the massive healing of it, and now it's just going to be layers of healing kind of thing.
Yes.
So when it happens, what's a way that you could let me know that will be supportive for both of us?
Okay.
And ask her so that she can start to think about it for herself of like, well, maybe I could say it differently than like, here you go again, doing the whole thing, and not that she would have that tone or tempo, but I'm just imagining like how it might go. So this way she can start taking some ownership too of how the communication goes back and you can hear from her where she is at with it.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Because remember, people resist what they hear,
Hear
but believe what they
what they
say.
say, yes.
So if you tell her, here's my desire that you do this for me,
Right.
it's still kind of falling back into the like, come check on me and make sure I'm okay.
Yeah.
Whereas if you ask her, when I do this again, because I'm healing this and I'm human and it's going to happen a lot less because
Yeah.
of my awareness and the healing that I've already done on it. But when it does happen, what could be a way that you share with me that I've done that again, that I've done that behavior again, or that it's hurt you in some way?
Yeah. I like that approach. Yeah.
Yeah, way more powerful. And it'll be breaking the cycle. It'll be different than what has happened before.
Right. And it doesn't sound like I'm telling her what she needs to do for me.
Exactly.
It's her coming up with how she wants to handle it.
You got it. Yep.
Yeah.
One last piece with this too is a question you could ask yourself. If you do start feeling that like, well, see, I'm not important to her. One, there needs to be that wake up of like, hold on, this is that little girl in her bedroom wanting someone to come check on her.
Mm-hmm.
And I've already broken that.
Yeah.
So do I want to punish her and me? Like just asking yourself the question, and notice it's a closed-ended question.
Right.
Do I want to keep punishing her and me? Now, if the answer is no, okay, then what do you do?
Maybe speak my truth at the
Yeah,
time.
you could do that. What else could you do?
Um,
Maybe have a conversation with the inner child.
yeah.
Go to
What's going on?
prayer. Pray always, right?
Yeah.
Like go to prayer, like, Lord, I need to surrender this to you. This is not coming back into my life because we've already broken this. So I need your help in this moment, something of that nature. It's just that recognition of like, no. And then you speak your truth. You could say something like, here's where I really want to like go into my whole punishment thing. And I don't want to do that anymore, but I'm
Yeah.
feeling that draw towards it because that's what's going on right now, just so you know. And then your wife could be like, oh, okay. Thank you for sharing with me. Like that
Yeah.
makes a big difference. Then I know where you're at. Okay. If the answer is yes, I do want to keep
Right.
punishing.
That'll probably come up too.
Exactly. I mean, like we're real here to
Right.
fight to feel. And with the 180, it's not about, affirmations and false perceptions. Like, no, that's real. You could be
Right.
like, oh, heck yeah, I do. I want to punish her.
Yeah.
If that's the case, at least acknowledge that. I want to punish you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you push her hand away and are like doing that, at least that you're saying like, I fully realize that this is me wanting to punish right now because I don't feel important. I know that's not your doing. It's just, I'm pissed. I'm angry.
Okay.
So at least acknowledge it out loud.
Right. That feels a lot better because I guess I'm taking ownership of my behaviors and just calling myself out for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good way to go about it.
Right. Instead of the passive aggressive, like, oh, now you want to hold my hand.
Right.
Or, yeah.
Yeah. Got
Very
that.
good. How are you
I'm-
feeling?
I'm feeling better. Like you
Good.
said, I have that hope and relief of like I see where it all comes from, and to me that I just need to know where things come from and how did I develop this, and then I feel I can work on that and
Mhm.
obviously, talk to God more and
Mhm.
do, the little girl meditation or whatever I need to do when I find myself in those situations again.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
also wanna give you, like, a homework around this with her because
Okay.
she might still be in her room waiting.
Hmm.
So, you're going to go to her with God present. Like, this is how I like to imagine, like, when I do these things with myself too, it's like and when I share with clients, like, Jesus is there with me. And
Okay.
I just like, "Will you lead me, Lord? Because she's hurting, and I've hurt her, and she's hurt me, and we're both just hurt, so we need you. So would you just, like, come with me and, like, let's talk to her," kinda thing.
Yeah.
And so his presence fills the room as you, like, connect with that little girl. And then you're just, like, there to let her know 2 things. One is that he's there. He has, like, the most important to you,
Right.
to him is you.
Right.
Yeah. And so you don't need anybody else to come and save you or, tell you that you're okay. But in case you do still, I'm here to tell you you're okay. I have come for you. He has come for you, and he
That's
will continue to chase after you. You
right.
know?
That's just so beautiful. Like
Yeah.
it just brings tears to my eyes
I
because
know me too.
it's never been said like that, but I feel like it's such a beautiful thing. Because I struggled before of like trusting that little girl to go back and have that conversation. But
Sure.
with having Jesus present with me, like it's so much more relief and feels so much love. And
Yes.
I don't know, just envisioning that in my head just
Uh,
brings so much love and hope.
there you go.
And I just love that vision of holding his hand and going in there together to comfort the little girl.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Beautiful. All right, my friend.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This has been a very special episode. If you found value in this, or if you know someone who's struggling in their marriage and maybe experiencing the same kind of thing and could benefit from listening to this, please share this episode with them. And don't forget to review, because that just helps spread the message more. All right, my friend. Thank you so much. Love you. Love all of you listeners. And I'll see you again for another episode of Decide to Heal.